When we think of medicine today, we picture sterile hospitals, trained doctors, and carefully tested treatments. But in the Middle Ages, medicine was a strange blend of faith, superstition, and ancient theories that often did more harm than good. In fact, many of the cures people relied on were so bizarre, so dangerous, that they were often worse than the disease itself. So, what did people actually believe, and why did they cling to remedies that sound shocking to us today? Let's step back into medieval Europe and explore the world of medical cures that would horrify modern doctors. The theory of the four humours. At the heart of medieval medicine was an ancient Greek idea, the theory of the four humours. People believed the human body was ruled by four fluids: blood, phlegm, black bile, and yellow bile. Health meant balance, sickness meant imbalance. So what was the cure? To restore balance, doctors might drain your blood, make you vomit, or give you laxatives. One of the most common treatments was bloodletting. Doctors or barbers would cut open veins or use leeches to suck out blood. The belief was simple: too much blood made you sick, so getting rid of it would cure you. In reality, many patients lost so much blood that they became weaker, sometimes dying from the treatment itself rather than the illness. Yet bloodletting remained popular for centuries, and even noble kings and queens submitted to the practice. Trepanning, drilling holes in the skull. Another cure was even more terrifying: trepanning. If someone suffered from headaches, seizures, or mental illness, doctors believed the problem came from evil spirits trapped inside the skull. The solution: drill a hole in the skull to let the spirits out. This was not only gruesome, but also extremely dangerous. Without proper tools or hygiene, infections were almost guaranteed. Yet some patients actually survived and lived with large holes in their heads, which archaeologists have found in ancient skulls. To us it sounds barbaric, but to medieval people, trepanning was a serious form of treatment, and sometimes even a cure. Cures for the plague. When the Black Death swept across Europe in the 14th century, killing millions, people were desperate for cures. Doctors wore the famous plague masks, with their long beaks filled with herbs and flowers. They believed the sweet smells would protect them from miasma, the bad air thought to spread disease. But the treatments were often worse than useless. Some cures included applying raw onions, herbs, or crushed emeralds to plague boils, drinking potions of vinegar and mercury, bathing in urine, or applying dried toads to the skin. The idea was that these substances would draw out the poison. In reality, they only made patients suffer more. One shocking cure even advised patients to sit between two fires and sweat out the disease, which often just burned or suffocated them. Astrology and the zodiac. Medicine wasn't just about herbs and bloodletting, it was also about the stars. Medieval doctors often used astrology to diagnose and treat illness. They believed each zodiac sign ruled a different part of the body. For example, Aries controlled the head, while Pisces ruled the feet. If you had a headache, your doctor might consult the stars to see if it was a good day for treatment. Some patients refused surgery or bloodletting unless the stars were favourable. This meant that medicine often depended less on science and more on celestial superstition. Strange animal remedies. Animals were also part of medieval cures. Doctors believed the natural world was filled with hidden powers, and animals carried special properties. Some bizarre treatments included onlock pobuluzonk, eating powdered mummies, yes, actual ground-up remains of embalmed bodies, believed to heal wounds, rubbing a live chicken on buboes, plague swellings, to draw out the poison, using pig fat mixed with herbs for burns and infections, drinking powdered horns or bones for strength. Many of these remedies had no effect at all, or made people even sicker. But in a world without modern medicine, desperation made people try anything. Religious healing and pilgrimages. In medieval Europe, faith and medicine were deeply connected. People believed illness was often a punishment from God, or the result of sin. So cures weren't just physical, they were spiritual. A priest might recommend prayer, confession, or pilgrimages to holy sites. Patients drank water from sacred wells, touched relics of saints, or slept in churches hoping for divine healing. Some even believed that wearing charms and amulets with holy words could protect them from disease. For many, this was the only hope when natural cures failed. Surgery without anesthesia. If bloodletting or herbs didn't work, surgery was the last resort. But remember, this was long before anesthesia or antibiotics. Patients endured amputations, tumor removals, or wound stitching while fully awake. Surgeons sometimes used alcohol or opium to dull the pain, but most operations were quick, brutal, and extremely risky. Survival was rare, and infection was almost guaranteed, but to medieval surgeons, even saving a few lives was considered success. From bloodletting to trepanning, from astrological charts to chicken-based cures, medieval medicine was a strange world of superstition, faith, and desperate hope. Yet behind these bizarre practices was something very human, the determination to survive in a world filled with sickness and death. Dangerous remedies and strange beliefs. We've already seen how medieval people relied on bloodletting, trepanning, astrology, and bizarre animal cures, but the world of medieval medicine gets even stranger and often far more dangerous. In this part, we'll uncover more shocking treatments, curious beliefs, and how some of these ideas influenced medicine for centuries to come. The power of poison, deadly plants as medicine. One of the strangest things about medieval medicine is how often healers used poisonous plants as cures. Hemlock, the plant that killed Socrates, was sometimes prescribed for pain. Too much of it, however, killed the patient instead. Belladonna, also called deadly nightshade, was used to dilate pupils and relieve pain, but in the wrong dose it caused hallucinations, convulsions, or death. Mandrake root was believed to have magical properties. Because it looked like a human figure, people thought it contained powerful healing energy. Some even believed it screamed when pulled from the ground, killing anyone who heard it. To medieval doctors, poison and cure were often the same thing. The difference was simply the dose. Unfortunately, without modern science, that line was often crossed. The obsession with gold and alchemy. Medieval Europe was fascinated with alchemy, the belief that ordinary metals could be turned into gold, and that elixirs could grant eternal life. Some alchemists claimed to create healing potions from powdered gold or precious stones. Wealthy nobles drank mixtures containing gold leaf, believing it would purify their bodies and extend their lives. In reality, these cures often poisoned them slowly. Heavy metals like mercury and lead were also common ingredients in medicines. Instead of healing, they caused terrible suffering. Yet alchemy wasn't all useless. Over time, alchemical experiments led to discoveries that eventually shaped modern chemistry and pharmacy. But in the Middle Ages, drinking liquid gold was more likely to kill you than save you. Cure by contraries. The logic of pain. Another strange idea was the belief in curing illness by using something that caused the opposite effect. For example, if you had a fever, doctors might place you in an icy bath. If you suffered from chills, they might burn your skin with hot irons. If you had pain in one part of your body, doctors might cause pain somewhere else to distract your illness. This belief often turned treatment into torture. Patients endured burns, cuts, or freezing conditions, all in the hope that their suffering might restore balance. The role of barbers and bone setters. Not all medieval doctors were trained in universities. In fact, some of the most common healers were barbers and bone setters. Barber-surgeons didn't just cut hair, they performed bloodletting, pulled teeth, and even carried out amputations. Their symbol, the red and white barber pole, comes from the bloody bandages they used during bloodletting. Bone setters, often untrained, specialized in fixing broken bones. They relied on folk knowledge, force, and crude splints. While some patients recovered, many suffered lifelong deformities. Still, in a world with few trained doctors, these local healers were often the only option. Witchcraft, charms, and magic potions. Medicine in the Middle Ages wasn't just about herbs and cutting, it was also deeply connected to magic and witchcraft. People carried charms, amulets, or written prayers to ward off illness. Some women, skilled in herbs, were accused of witchcraft when their cures failed or when they succeeded too well. There were potions made from strange ingredients like frogs' livers, snake skins, and even human fat. To us, it sounds horrifying, but to medieval people, magic was just another way of battling unseen forces of sickness. Public health, dirty streets, and disease. One reason medicine was so desperate in the Middle Ages was the terrible state of public health. Cities were overcrowded, streets were filled with waste, and clean water was hard to find. This meant diseases spread quickly, and doctors were overwhelmed. Some attempted public cures, such as fumigating houses with burning herbs, or carrying flowers to avoid bad air. But without knowledge of germs, these efforts rarely worked. The Church's influence. Religion shaped much of medieval medicine. The Church often warned against treatments it considered sinful, like bathing too often or using magical charms. But it also supported hospitals run by monks and nuns. These hospitals were less about curing and more about caring, providing food, shelter, and prayer for the sick. While medical knowledge was limited, the compassion of these institutions offered comfort, even if not a cure. The legacy of medieval medicine. Despite the bizarre and harmful cures, medieval medicine laid the foundation for progress. Ancient texts were preserved, and slow advances in surgery, anatomy, and herbal knowledge eventually built the path toward modern medicine. But it's important to remember, for ordinary people, medicine in the Middle Ages was often terrifying. Imagine being sick and having your doctor recommend leeches, gold potions, or a hole drilled in your skull. It's no wonder many people put their faith in prayer, pilgrimages, or simple home remedies. From poisonous plants and golden elixirs to barber-surgeons and witchcraft, medieval cures reveal a world caught between science, superstition, and survival. To us, these treatments seem shocking, even deadly, but for medieval people, they were acts of hope in a time when illness was everywhere and death was never far away. And while we may laugh at the idea of leeches or powdered mummies, it's worth remembering that many of the treatments we use today also began with trial and error. The story of medieval medicine is not just about strange cures, it's about humanity's endless struggle to survive.